for a fireside chat on solutions for a food insecure world.
Andrew Zimmern, everyone. Hello. All right, I wanted to do something. If you're sitting over on the your left-hand side of the room and a pole is blocking you from seeing Andrew Zimmern, I know you watch him on TV all the time, so that's probably normal. We got a ton of seats over here. I'm going to do a little intro warm-up. Why don't you kind of move spaces and get a fresh view? Why not? We'll wait. All good. So thank you for that. Andrew Zimmern, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I don't think this man needs too much introduction. Emmy Award-winning, James Beard Award-winning chef and global citizen. I mean, a force of nature is really how I would describe you. I had a whole plan of attack for this discussion after talking with him for about 15 minutes that went completely out the window. So let's just have a straight-up discussion on what matters to you,
sure,
what you learned this week, and what you think we need to do to fix the world. There's going to be a question coming in a second.
Yeah. I take every statement in the form of a question because I love to talk.
And that's what I realized. Yeah. I got to get it out right now before you go. So one of the things that we're going to be doing after this is we're at the conclusion of our food program. This is our wrap up, bring it on home, what our challenges are, and what we're encouraged about session. And we're going to talk with Andrew about that in a minute. But after this, in about an hour and change, we're going to do a live taping of a podcast called The Catch that we have done at Foreign Policy. I think we're in season 4 right now with the Walton Family Foundation. It is a fantastic pod. If you haven't heard it, I encourage you to listen to it. Rob Sachs, who helps produce it, is right over here with us from FP. In it, we go and travel around the world to fisheries and tell the stories of the fishermen and the issues that they're having, be it with commercial fishing offshore. These are artisanal squid fishermen in Peru, or geopolitical battles in the North Sea between cod fisheries between Russia and Norway. We're going to have a panel discussion here with some really smart people who are going to talk through what this means and how we can solve for our fishing problems globally. And that's going to be a live pod taping that we're going to post on our pod. Please stick around and join us for that. But I thought that would be a really great way to kick off our discussion right now to talk about fisheries. So you have a very cool show, Hope in the Water, that you just produced. It was on PBS. You did it with David Kelly, I know. Fantastic. I encourage you to watch it. This is one of the most precious resources we have. We're not using it correctly, and that's a question. What can we do better?
Yeah, we're not. And, we were listening to the last panel. I know most of you were here for the very last panel, and, Avash was talking about, exports are down this year. Production is down this year. And he was talking about terrestrial farming, right? And the blue economy is ready to explode if we invest in it properly, if we create the right partnerships around it, and if we take advantage of all the different mechanisms that are available to us today. And I am so bullish on this for the first time. This is my, I think, 5th UNGA Climate Week, and I am, I'm finally hearing more and more and more about solutions and less and less about the house is burning, let's gather our things and leave. And that leaves me feeling really, really optimistic. And I'll give you a really great example. I was at a panel the other day, and they were talking about the power of economic development in Africa and the fact that, 4% of global seafood exports come from Africa, which is a ridiculously low number, 4%. But Africa is an island. It's a giant island, really, if you think about it that way. Unfortunately, and you know this better than almost anyone, the vast number of fishermen who are on this giant island are artisanal, or I like to call them smallhold fishermen, because we have this smallhold farmer mentality, and I like to link aqua to terrestrial, right? And what's really fantastic is that we finally have banks willing to invest in companies to go in and gather the data from these fishermen who otherwise have no other way to approach a financial institution, right, to say, hey, here's the return on your investment. It's a very, very simple idea. We've been doing it in the terrestrial space for a long time. I have a program, a resiliency program with the United Nations World Food Program in Zambia that has proven this out with small lending groups. Women, mostly smallholder farmers in Zambia are women, who gather together. They all put in $15-20. They charge each other an exorbitant amount of interest, but they lend each other money so week to week they can bake more scones to sell at the soccer game, right? And it actually is growing and growing and growing in the amount of money that they have in their little tin box. I mean that literally, it's not metaphorical. And finally, a banker from Lusaka became aware of this. The WFP provided these women with transportation to the big cities, 6 hours away. They went with their ledger that they've been keeping for 3 years, thanks to WFP people on the ground, and they're able to get a microloan. Well, that microloan was $800. That is transformative for this village. So that can literally be done village by village by village around the world. We can do that in Africa, and we can put together these public-private partnerships to absolutely grow this massive blue economy in Africa. If we could move that 4% to 10% to 12% and have them fish their own waters safely with newer boats, engines on the boats, and put, ice machines and electricity, get the grid down to these docks. I mean, they're really just sandy beaches. That's a game changer for an entire continent. A continent, by the way, that may be unable to be farmed in 20 years. So it's absolutely vital that, yes, we help them terrestrially, but also vital that we create a business model that works from an aquaculture standpoint.
It sounds like we need to do a season, if not an episode, of The Catch down in and around Africa, Rob. That's something that might be in the cards for us.
Well, we're like two peas in a pod. I mean, I really like this, and I love telling stories on the water because I think, we know so much. I mean, I know this is a very general, broad topic statement, but we know so much about what happens on terra firma, and we know so little about what happens in our oceans. But that really speaks to the absolute boom economy that's available to us beneath the waters. I mean, most people don't know this. I know you're very familiar with it, but the lobsters are marching north. The water is getting warmer off the coast of Maine. And so this boomlet that we've had, and the results has been lobster rolls on every menu,
They still seem to cost $45 per lobster roll, so.
But you're seeing them everywhere,
yeah.
Right? It's amazing to me as the lobsters are moving north, the lobster fishers are now listening to the people who are saying, you know something? Grow seaweed, grow kelp in the off season. Use the same equipment, these ropes. You put a big weight in your lobster trap, sink it down. It grows a foot a day. In springtime, you haul it up, you sell your kelp. Well, there are finally lobstermen in Maine. We've been doing this now for a group I know has been doing this now for about 4 or 5 years. The lobstermen now are making more money off seaweed than they were off lobster.
Wow.
In the summertime. It is a radical game changer for the fishing fleets in Maine. These are small solutions that with the right kinds of partnerships can absolutely be explosively powerful because seaweed is used not only for vitamins, and I'd like to see more people eating it, right? But, cosmetics industry uses them. Lots of other industries use them. It is it's a superfood. And we really, really, really need to be focusing on this now more than ever.
Don't I eat it in my sushi or do I need to eat more of it?
Well, here's the deal. We eat a very small percentage of the amount. I mean, look, we eat one species of chicken, okay, the world over. Certain companies have messed around genetically with their chicken. It's a whole different issue, but we essentially eat one species of chicken. There are hundreds of species of edible vegetables in the water. There are thousands of species of edible animals in the water. We eat, salmon, shrimp, tuna, halibut, a handful of others. So why not replace 15-20% of your stir fry with edible seaweeds? There are 8, 9, or 10 of them that are not overly salty, that are readily available. And number one, it's great nutritionally for you. I mean, Tom Brady, the secret to his longevity, seaweed, glucosamine, chondroitin, joint health, all the rest of that kind of stuff. We feed it to our athletes. I have a catering company called KZ Pro that whose only clients are professional sports teams, and we're putting seaweed in a lot of the food for them because everybody wants to have a long career. Your biggest contract comes at the end of your career, right?
Yeah.
We all can be eating it for better health. Put it in your stir fries, put it in your salads. It really is absolutely delicious.
I'm going out and getting me some seaweed immediately.
Get
if
some
I can
wakame.
Be like Tom Brady.
Wakame. Everyone loves wakame. It's very mild. It comes dried. You rehydrate it. It blooms in volume. Put it in your Caesar salad. It's delicious.
So let's start talking about superfoods for a minute. One of the amazing things about Andrew is, and you really should look at his bio. Again, we have the link to the agenda if you haven't seen it on your lying around or on your chair. You are involved in so many different organizations. It is remarkable to me.
Because I'm noisy.
And
I'm noisy.
You've got a voice and you use it. But it was funny because I was just chatting with Andrew and trying to stump him and say, how are you involved in all these organizations such as Beans is How?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, not only does he rattle off a million ways that he's involved in it, he's like, and the CEO is right over here. Are you CEO or what? Chief Bean Officer, Paul Noonan, and I'm like, wow, he really is. It's not just on paper. He's really involved with these organizations. So let's talk about beans. Why are they how?
Easy to grow, easy on the soil. I mean, the fact of the matter is that there's no food security without, soil. And we need crops that are resistant to climate change. That's beans. They provide a ton of fiber. Everyone talks about the protein that's needed. By the way, same thing with fish. Everyone talks about all the protein. It's the other things, the other nutrients that we need more. We can manufacture protein in pills. I mean, protein is not our issue. It's all the other things that go along with what we need for the human body that we need. And beans is how. Now, the great thing is we can store beans for a long time, right? I've been saying I work with the WFP in Zambia, which is the country that I sort of specialize in for right now. And beans, they can last for years in an environment, can be cooked with water, provide a lot of nutrients for people, and is a superfood. And how many varietals of beans, Paul? 22,000 plus? Thousands. And obviously we're talking about all those different legumes as well, and lentils, and we extend it out to all the millets and things like that. But it is a tactile takeaway for people when folks say, well, what's a call to action? What's a simple thing I can do? We make a pot of beans once a week and put it in a lot of different foods at my home. The kids love it. You can steer it in 100 different ways. If you make a neutral flavored pot of beans, just, cook them off.
And just leave it in the fridge.
And then you can season them 1,000. You can take it in a Latin direction. You can take it in an Asian direction. You can just sprinkle it in a salad. You can whip it up and create a hummus or a dip of sorts. But beans is an amazing, amazing, powerful food for so many different reasons. And it really does speak to soil, climate, economic development, and we need to be doing more of it. The bean production that we're trying to get into Zambia is all about crop diversity over there and nutrition. We need to give farmers over there a drought-friendly crop, and there are several varieties of beans and millet that they are now using. Most Zambians eat nashima, which is a corn mush with every meal. It's the national food. Well, nashima, or mush made with millet, is so much better for your body and it's got so more nutrient dense superfood that we are transforming Zambians one family at a time by introducing millet into their diets. Now, there was a form of millet in Africa that had been there for thousands of years, yeah. Right? And one of the things that people don't know about Africa is that there's so many crops being grown over there that are not indigenous, right? Companies went over there and sold seeds in the hope they could be selling seeds every darn year. I get very angry about this thing, so I'm trying to tamper down my anger. But we've messed with African farming system for so long, restoring Africans to some of their original foods and showing them what does grow there, guess what? It takes the soil much better than what some of these seed companies and American ag companies have tried to peddle over there as a way to make money off an economy that is fragile in so many parts of that incredible continent. So I think these are answers to problems that we've had for so long. They're very, very simple. And now, thanks to big companies willing to supply data collection to different communities and different agencies trying to do good work, we're finally able to get leverage with the lenders. And that is the game changer that I think I've seen now this year more than ever, is lending institutions and bankers and people like Avash. Every panel I've been on has had an institutional lending force of some kind, someone from the World Bank, someone from this banking organization, or this, group of, dollar mongerers who are looking for places.
Good people. They're
to
good
invest
people.
in. Yeah, no, some of them are. But it's, whether it's a blue economy off the coast of Africa, right? Or whether it's somebody who's going to be, profiting from regenerative work for terrestrial farmers in South America, Central America, Africa, I am all for it. I am a capitalist. Capitalism will solve these problems. But we're now seeing Wall Street engaging with nonprofits and NGOs and with scientists and companies like Google who are giving free AI programs that are helping to be, predictive of drought, right? And predictive of flood, right? These horrific weather events that are happening in countries like Zambia. So now we can actually move people out of harm's way with the flood, which means we're not giving humanitarian aid. We have more money for resilience programs, of which we have dozens and dozens and dozens over there, and they're all working. They're collecting data. They're getting funded, and it is changing what's going on in that country for the positive. I am so bullish on that work being done. And if it can work in Zambia, by the way, a country the size of Germany, if Zambia can become the breadbasket of that region of Africa, South Central Africa, there's, I think, 7 or 8 countries around Zambia, 2 or 3 of which are not so stable. It will stabilize them and become a force for good. And you know as well as anyone, because I've heard you talk about it, food is an international security. It's not just about hunger and waste. It's an international security issue. It's an economic and jobs development issue. It's an immigration issue. It's a climate crisis issue. It solves so many problems when it's applied the right way and the right partners come together to solve that problem.
Love it. Food diplomacy. So I just wanted to ask, why Zambia? Did that just happen? How did that go down? Why for you is that your area of focus right now?
I wanted to, when they first asked me where I wanted to go, I told them I wanted to go back to. Yes, I wanted to. I'm there. I have some fancy global ambassador title over there of some kind, but I wanted to go over to Africa because I've been to, I think, 28 countries there making television, and so I've been in all those little boats. I've been on those farms. I've been in those huts. Where people are, using cooking fires and people are dying of lung cancer, at age 40. And when I started working with Bono and One to try to get the Electrify Africa Act passed 18 years ago or so, I realized that the time that I've spent in Africa was actually an incredibly strong tool that a lot of people didn't have. I'm talking about just spending time, boots on the ground.
Right.
You want to learn about a country? Spend some time there. You want to know how great the people are? Spend some time there. You want to understand what will really help Africans? Talk to Africans, right? So because I had that wisdom and I started working on this Electrify Africa stuff, I knew it was always going to be Africa. And I said, you got to give me a country where we can make real change. And I said, I need a place with a new ambassador who's, willing to ruffle some feathers, and Mike, incredible new ambassador over there who had come from the Sahel, and he is just a lightning rod of inspiration and wisdom and wants to get stuff done. And because Zambia experiences extreme drought and flooding, but also has very fertile growing regions, I knew we could actually make a real difference there. So we're doing data collection with hydrology. We're putting in programs in schools where they grow their own plants, and attendance is up to 100%. We have all these facts and figures and these lending programs with small groups of women, smallholder farmers. And we're doing all these things, aggregators who are buying excess crops, and all of them are working. All of them are working. They're all public-private partnerships, and it allows us to spread the message of success that I think can be an inspiration for people working in other parts of the world.
If WFP came back to you today and said, Andrew, thanks for fixing Zambia, where would you go next?
Well, that's a very good question. One of the places that I am visiting next year is El Salvador. And I want to go to Central America because there's some programs down there where we're actually teaching culinary arts. And we are taking people out of gangs and out of prisons, both, teaching them culinary arts. And guess what? Crime is down. Emigration from El Salvador is actually down. And the success rate is extremely high. Creating jobs and creating microeconomies, especially through food, works. What comes from the heart reaches the heart. And the one thing that I wanted to do with Bizarre Foods, which is how most people know me, was I was a man on a mission. I wanted to teach people about patience, tolerance, and understanding of other people. It wasn't about a fat guy going around the world eating bugs. That was my hook to get the job. It was a Trojan horse.
I think it's more like a guy with a great haircut.
Well,
and
thank you. I appreciate it. And glasses.
And glasses.
And so what was really fantastic about it was the learning that I did there allowed me to get my foot in the door to all of these sort of other places. It also showed me the power of food. Right? Because I've met families in Japan who tell me they watch Bizarre Foods. I'm talking about recently. And they love that show in Finland because the mom was telling the kid to shut up and the crew would leave soon and, you know, go do your homework. And that's exactly what they do with their kids. And the more that we can see each other, I mean, it's a cliche, but we do have more in common than we have things that divide us. And that was my goal for Bizarre Foods. It's my goal with all the work that I'm doing right now, whether it's for the IRC, Beans is How, Charlize Theron's Africa Outreach Project, or whatever it is. I'm all in. I mean, the rest of my life will be spent doing this kind of work, and you know, I get to make documentaries like Hope in the Water and cool things like that, and still dabble in TV myself.
That will be a life well spent.
So I'm hoping. I got to make up for doing. I was a very bad person for many years. Truly, I was. It's not funny. I really was. I was a user of people and taker of things. And I have a police record. I've been in jail and I've been in prison. I'm a suicide survivor. I'm 32 and a half years sober. And I don't remember the 80s. And so I feel after sobering up and being given a second chance at life that I could do this for the rest of my life and never make up what I've gotten back from other human beings because it was their love and service that gave me my life back. I wouldn't have my kid, wouldn't have my family, wouldn't have the opportunity to talk to all of you. I mean, pinch me. I'm having this conversation with you.
Pinch me.
You
pinch
know,
us.
I mean, here, I mean, this is, you know, when you, the lesson that I learned from getting sober and recovering from all the different things that I'm still recovering from is that if you sprinkle a human being with love and kindness, they flourish. And that's what all those programs and all those things that we're talking about, all those fancy words, all those loans, all that blue economy shit, it is really about sprinkling human beings, our brothers and sisters, with dignity, love, and kindness. They have needs too. They just want to feed their families. They just want to make their villages, their communities, their cities, their countries more safe, more secure, and a better place to live. And if that isn't a good enough reason for all of us to be doing what we're doing, you're all doers. Every single one of you is a doer out there. That's why we should be doing the thing we're doing, because it makes another person's life more meaningful and more secure. It's the best thing in the world.
That is the mic drop moment. Let us sprinkle some. Thank you for sprinkling love and kindness all over us. Spot on. Andrew Zimmern.
Thank you.